Hi everyone. Today I'm in my tea shop in Puer City and I got the pleasure to receive some samples from Xiao Husai. So I'm gonna taste. This is the spring version. I already tried the autumn version, but I want to try the spring one, and I will need to try again the autumn version tomorrow because I wasn't very focused. And the last couple of days, I've been thinking about quality and what is a quality product. I started thinking about this because I saw an article on the BBC of a bakery in England that sells some pastries, and they put some colored toppings on the pastries, and the colored toppings was banned by the Food Safety Agency of England for some reason. And so the boss of the company says he's going to stop making those pastries even though they are selling very well. And I checked the comment sections and people said the guy was stupid because he didn't consider his customer base. He could just get rid of the toppings or use lower quality ones which are authorized in England. But apparently what the boss is going to do is just discard the product. What do you think about this approach? Of course, the pragmatic solution would be to find an alternative topping to put on top of your pastries. And since you already have the customer base for those pastries, you can hope that maybe people won't notice, especially if you sell to children. So you could do that, and that would keep you the business. But actually, in this case, I totally agree with what the boss decided, and it comes down to quality. So I checked some definitions of quality. Some say it's about customer satisfaction. So if you have a lot of satisfied customer, it means that you make a high quality product. I disagree with that. For example, if you go to McDonald's, you'll probably be satisfied with the experience. I guess they have a high customer satisfaction rate, and yet you cannot say they make very high quality food. So I don't think the customer satisfaction really means quality for your product. I think it would more mean that the product was suitable to the customer's need or something like that. And to me, actually, what made me think this BBC article kind of resonated with me, because sometimes I can be faced with that kind of deal. Let's say if I'm not satisfied with a batch of tea, I could decide to, for example, blend it with the big batch, with the whole harvest, and probably people wouldn't notice. But the problem is I would know it, so I would know that the quality of the whole harvest has been compromised because maybe I put 5 kilo which were not up to my standard. And I think from the first time you do that, you use that pragmatic solution, you compromise your integrity and you go down a slippery slope, because if the first time the customer don't notice, then the next time you can find other cost saving measures. So you can go towards cost reduction, and a lot of businesses do that. They start with a great product, and in order to increase their profit, once the product gets popular, they find ways to rationalize, to make the product cheaper. And the problem is, the more you do that, the more money you make, so you want to keep doing this, and at the end of the day, you end up with a mediocre product. And a mediocre product, so down the line, maybe unsatisfied customers, but more importantly, you're not proud of what you're making because you know that it's a mediocre product. And so I was thinking that quality is really a mindset, and it's part of the company's culture, making quality products. You can see that some companies have this reputation for making high quality products. You could think of Toyota, for example, for the cars, which have in their company's philosophy, in their company's culture, have this idea of making really good, you could say, reliable and things that won't break. And I stumbled upon an interview of Steve Jobs, which was shot probably in the 90s, and it's interesting because he said that Americans usually do a lot of marketing on the quality aspect. So in their marketing material, they will say that their products is of high quality, or maybe they will give you some kind of objective measures to tell you that it's high quality. So for example, if it was tea, you could say it's 100% handmade. The rolling was made by hand, the cakes were pressed by stones. It's the kind of marketing you find a lot online, because I think if you look at online marketing lessons, they will recommend you to bring forward all the objective aspects that make your product a high quality product. And so Steve Jobs said that American companies tend to do that a lot, while Japanese companies don't put quality forward in their marketing. And yet I think if you ask many people, they will usually say that Japanese products are of superior quality. And that brings me to an observation. It's that the quality should not really be explained. It can only be experienced. It's a bit like the teaware, for example. You can feel the difference between a good quality teapot and a bad one, and it can be hard to pinpoint really the difference with words objectively. And even if you say it in your marketing, I think it won't have much impact on the customer. It sounds more like bragging, I would say. But if you don't use in the marketing, it means that it will take time for the quality of your products to be recognized by the market, I guess. So I guess you're playing a long game if you're doing quality products. So to keep the quality of your products high, I think you need some kind of faith. And I would say for tea, it would mean the passion. You need to be happy when you enjoy your product. And I couldn't imagine, for example, being the boss of a company who produces something and not enjoying my own product. So quality requires a kind of faith from the producers in order to be achieved. And so to me, my definition of quality is the integrity of the vision. Does the product convey the original vision of the producer? So to make good quality, to make a great product, I think what's most important is for the producer not to compromise the integrity of his vision. And you can feel when the product has been adjusted to the market, when market studies have been done before making the product. Look at the latest Star Wars trilogy, for example. If you look at the first trilogy, you can feel that there's a lot of experimentation. It's kind of bold, and they didn't know if it would work or not. And the third trilogy, the latest one, you can feel that they probably asked a lot of panel audience, things like that, to decide which scene to include, and they don't want to displease anyone. So in the end, the movie is totally mediocre. I think that's true with every product. If you make compromises on your product, you end up with a mediocre product. And so when it comes to the tea, actually, so I discussed that quality question with my employee, and he told me that a high quality tea, it doesn't necessarily taste good actually. Those are two different things, and I think I agree with him. For example, you could have a tea that pleases everyone, that nobody will hate, but which will be very mediocre. Let's let's say a basic tea, guanyin, it cannot taste terrible. Everybody will say it's okay, it's fragrant, but it's not a good tea. While I think especially the best pu'er teas, they are probably the most cleaving ones. If you look at very bitter Laumana, or if you look at even some powerful Iwu teas, some people cannot stand that kind of strength in the tea, and they would go for something more casual. And so I was also thinking when I was making those black teas and these experimental black teas that I made in Jingmai, I tried them again, and sure, I think the taste is, it won't be to the taste of everybody, but I'm sure that some people will be much into it, and some people will probably find it terrible. And so that's the kind of product that I like to sell, actually, because at least you will have a reaction from people. And a good tea, actually, it's like a piece of art. It should provoke a reaction from the audience. So when you taste the tea, to me it doesn't really matter if it tastes good or bad. What really matters, like for example, when I taste the tea, I will take notes, and usually the more notes I take, the more interesting the tea is, the more I want to sell this tea, because I think the customers will also have many things to find out about this tea. And if you look at some of the best-selling teas, for example, look at the Guafengzai teas on the Eastern Yiwu. You cannot say that they are very well-made teas. In lots of cases, they have issues with the processing. Or even look at the aged teas. You can't say that they were made in perfect conditions or even aged very well, and yet many people enjoy them. Also maybe because they taste a piece of history, something like that. When you taste a specific terroir, and if you're sure, it also works with trust, of course, but if you really trust that you get the right terroir that you were looking for, that's a plus in the experience, and it will add to the quality of the experience. And so, for example, when I was a beginner on my tea journey, I would be very stressed at the question, is this pu'er tea true gushu, or is it a blend, or is it plantation tea? Was the shaching made by hand or by machine? And of course these questions are legitimate, and as a professional, of course, I should make sure, I should guarantee the information I give, at least if I give that information. But if you think about it as a consumer, as a tea enthusiast who want the best experience, actually these questions become meaningless. In the end, what matters is what experience do you get when you taste the tea. And you will have surprises about this. And to me, an easy test to see which teas are of the highest quality for me, I would say just open look at your tea shelf and look at the smallest cakes, the cakes that you've drunk most, and you will find out that you don't necessarily drink the most expensive teas or the supposedly better teas. Sometimes you're just happy with a more simple tea, but maybe this simple tea has something special with you and you like to go back to it. For example, such a special tea, I think, is the 2019 Mohe that I released in 2019, and I think many people enjoyed it. And it's not an expensive tea, but I picked it because it had something special. And last year I went back to Mohe, but that time I wasn't too satisfied about the tea, so I didn't source it. So when people buy those expensive Iwu teas, which are not necessarily very well processed, I guess they are looking for the terroir, really, the connection to those forested tea gardens, that idea of kind of wild tea. On the opposite of the spectrum, you could say that Taiwanese tea, Fujian tea, are not really made with the best material. The gardens there are not particularly ecological, connected to nature. They are all clones. The altitude is not necessarily very high. For example, in Taiwan, the Dongting area is of low altitude, and yet they produce very good teas, and they make up for the lack of typicity in the raw material with special processing. And these teas are very time consuming to make, very hard to make in the factory, and I think you can enjoy the result, you can enjoy the quality, the refinement in those kind of teas. And even the Taiwanese, they kind of say they are civilized teas, so like those oolongs, which are very hard to make, and more uncivilized teas, or kind of savage teas, like the tea we make in Yunnan, which is very simple, but which you will enjoy for the natural qualities. And so that's all I wanted to say today. It's just that to make good quality products, I think you should take an uncompromising approach to what you're doing. Because as soon as you start getting pragmatic and making compromises, you'll always end up in mediocrity, I guess. So you need to keep a kind of faith, an ideal of quality. That's really what will allow you to make high quality products. So thanks for watching. I'm going to finish drinking this tea and see you later. Bye bye.